I'm Jamel Hillen on the latest His and Hers podcast. Michael Smith and I, we got a tough task. We're going to have to take it to our boy, Michael Wilbon. Got a bone to pick with you, Mike. Click the Listen tab on the ESPN app.
Do you hear me? SEC!
Are you talking to me?
And the Tigers are wild, and they're wild. Mr. Finebaum. Hey man, when I'm speaking, you shut up.
This is the Paul Finebaum Show. Now, Paul Finebaum. You're listening to the best of the Paul Finebaum Show.
Nick Saban is about to join us. He has just finished his round. We're live at the Regions Golf Championship, and the crowd has thickened here to hear the head football coach at the University of Alabama trying to get him up here. And we welcome Coach Saban to our program. Coach, thank you very much. Good to see you. Very well. Good to see you.
Good. Are you on here?
We are on. We're live.
Good.
No chit-chat today. Good to see you. Obviously, everywhere you've been since yesterday morning, you've been asked about it, and you knew you would continue to be asked about it. But what can you tell us about the situation with Cam Robinson?
Same thing I've been saying to everybody. We're gathering information about it. When we get the facts, we'll determine whether there's something we need to do internally or not. But Cam Robinson's been a really good player for us. He's been a really good person for us. He's never been in trouble before. So, all those things are things that need to be taken into consideration. It's certainly not the kind of behavior that we like for any of our players to ever represent the university or themselves or their family, and certainly there's lessons to be learned here.
I read something today, not that matters, but someone said we're going to find out whether Nick Saban gives Cam Robinson a second chance like he has given other players. You have had that conversation. We've had it before. You've always believed in that. I realize you just got through saying you don't have all the facts, but talk a little bit about your track record of giving players second chances.
Well, I think, people basically think that discipline is punishment. Discipline is actually any kind of punishment that's going to change somebody's behavior. And I think what everybody has to ask, just like you would with your own children, is the guy better off with us, with the structure and direction that he's going to get, and the opportunities that he can take advantage of and be somebody that other people can emulate with his leadership, or are we better off throwing him, out with the bathwater? So, I don't feel like that's always the right thing to do unless it's really warranted.
So you would rather be wrong giving someone a second chance than not knowing that you could possibly help someone?
Well, I think that's what our whole country is all about. Don't we try to give people opportunities, and they obviously have a responsibility to represent and do things a certain way, and we're going to make people accountable to do that, and certainly continue to try to teach them to do that. But at the same time, I don't think that discipline is always punishment and punitive action to do what? Make all the people think, wow, Nick Saban's really a tough guy. He kicked this guy off the team. I'm not sure that's the right way to manage this, and we're going to do what's best for the player and our program and our team.
In terms of navigating the legal system, I know that's the first step. What do we know?
I talked to the attorneys yesterday. I don't know much. I can't really discuss it, so we'll just have to wait and see.
Without him, how does that affect, he's one of your best players, how does that affect your team?
Well, we didn't have him all spring, and we still had a team. So, we've got other players that can play, but, Cam's been a really good player for us, and hopefully, we'll be able to work through this in some kind of way, and he'll learn from it, we'll learn from it, and we can do something to help him have a successful future.
Overall on that everyone knows the amount of time that your program, and now a lot of others as well, put into the education. Do you feel like forgetting him for a second, because we don't know the disposition of that case, but do you feel like it works, it gets through, and you're helping more people than not?
I do think that because of the personal development programs that we've implemented and the structure that we've implemented academically, which I know we've got the highest graduation rate in the SEC, so that's worked. But I also think we've had less problems with players because we're trying to help players develop the right thoughts, habits, and priorities. Now, one thing I always tell players that 3 bad things. Nothing good happens after midnight. Nothing good happens when you're around guns unless you're going hunting. And you don't want to mess around with women you don't know, because a lot of times bad things happen. So, and in this case, a couple of those things were violated. And I think it's going to be a learning experience for everybody on our team.
As far as your team, it seems like that's always the last thing people talk about. How do you feel about them?
Well, I think we have a long ways to go. I thought we made a lot of progress in the spring. I think a team is always a work in progress. People ask me, are you where you were a year ago? Well, I don't think we were where we needed to be at this time a year ago. So we're still developing leadership. We still have guys that have opportunities that have to improve and embrace their new roles on the team. So all these things are a little bit of a work in progress. But I do think one thing about the leadership component of your team, in the summertime when the coaches aren't there a lot, that's really when that sort of has the opportunity to flourish, and it'll be interesting to see how that develops over the summer.
And finally, as we get specific on the team, it seems like it's an annual conversation about the quarterback situation. It's worked out okay with 2 SEC championships in a row, but what is your thought process on where you are right now?
Well, I think, first of all, somebody has to win the job. And part of winning the job is winning the team. So I thought that all the quarterbacks made progress in the spring. Cooper Bateman obviously has the most experience. Jalen Hurts was a new guy that came in and made somewhat of an impact. And the other 2 players both continue to improve. So we're going to see which one of these guys takes the bull by the horns and wins the team over. And it took to the Ole Miss game last year for Jake to do it. So I hope it happens sooner than that this year.
How much more complicated does that make it with no real leader, no real quarterback right now when these guys are working out?
Well, but I don't think you have to be the starting quarterback to be a leader. I think if you're focused on what you need to do to affect the team and to do your job well, and not worried about what everybody else thinks or what somebody else is doing, you have a great opportunity to compete well and do a great job. I mean, there have been very successful teams that have played 2 quarterbacks before.
Finally, and it seems like these have been one after another, but you did come here to play golf to help raise money for charity. I assume you enjoyed it.
Enjoyed it very much so. I mean, we had, Rocco is a great guy to play with. We had the Eagles playing in the golf cart.
Really?
So, we had an enjoyable day.
What was your go-to Eagles song as you play golf?
Whatever Martin put on there, which was Rocco's Caddy.
I don't know how you play golf listening to music.
I love it, man. It makes you relax a little bit, which is what we got to get you to do.
Did Nick Saban just tell me I need to chill out? Is that what I just got through listening?
Yeah, that's exactly what you got to do.
Instead of going to a satellite camp this year, I'm going to your personal camp. What's the first thing I need to do?
Well, look, I've had you in camp before. Don't forget that in the old days, I tried to coach you up on how to play corner. And I think with a reasonable amount of success.
Well, I hate to pick on the coach here, but you taught me everything, but you didn't instruct me on which hand to use, and I got burned because I tried to cross over.
It's offhand jam, man. I thought you would get that. Pick it up quickly.
I should have. Coach, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Paul.
Great seeing you.
Great seeing you again.
Truckers. This is the best of the Paul Finebaum Show.
ESPN College Football Insider Brett McMurphy. Brett, I love how you never stop working. I mean, with a story as big as everything going on at Baylor today, you take time out to tweet, Ohio State adds 2018 home game versus Tulane, as if anybody cared. And then Sun Belt adds bowl affiliation with the Arizona Bowl.
Sure. Well, there are people in the Big Ten that care, and, there are Sun Belt fans that are excited to know they've got a fifth bowl affiliation.
You know what?
So,
yeah, there could be people in Louisiana who care about both Tulane and the Sun Belt. So
Exactly.
So you never know. All right, well, on to more serious matters with what happened at Baylor. We spent a lot of time talking about, the results of the investigation, Art Briles being fired. Should more have happened in terms of other people losing their jobs? I want to try to focus with you, though, the impact on the field here in terms of Baylor moving forward. First of all, have you heard anything definitive about, at least for the short term, who's going to be the interim head coach?
I have not, Brad. There are reports that Phil Bennett, the defensive coordinator, will be the interim coach. I did see that he was asked specifically about that today, and he had no comment. That would make the most sense, but again, nothing official from Baylor. I've reached out to Baylor officials, and they said there has not been any determination officially if that's the way they're going to go.
Okay, and then how about the possibility that Baylor does what Alabama did, was it 13 years ago, when they had to get rid of Mike Price in May, and Alabama decided to just go ahead and hire the next full-time coach. They grabbed Mike Shula. What do you think the chances are that Baylor, instead of going into 2016 with an interim head coach, goes ahead and makes a permanent hire right now?
I would be shocked, Brad, because again, we're 100 days, 99 days from the season opener, and you basically would be bringing in a staff that had no knowledge of any of the current players. And where would you find that coach? Obviously, it would most likely come from outside the FBS ranks, maybe a NFL assistant. Maybe you can go that route. I can't see that happening. I think what's more likely is that the coaches will remain for the 2016 season, and then when the season's over, they will all be gone, and then the new athletic director will then hire a new football coach, and they'll try to move on. I just don't think there's anyone out there that Baylor, one, could bring in, and or two, would want to come into this situation. One, not knowing who your athletic director is going to be. So even if there is an attractive coach out there, who would want to come into this situation not knowing? Again, Baylor said they notified the NCAA about they've turned in violations. We don't know what those specific violations are. And also you don't know who's going to be your full-time athletic director, because I think it's just a matter of time until Ian McCaw is terminated as well. Why he wasn't terminated today, I'm guessing it has something to do with his contract, which is not accessible through public records, but something to do with having to be notified a certain number of days. Because when Baylor announced Art Briles' departure, they said that he was suspended with intent to terminate. I'm sure that's just legalese for saying you've been notified that we're going to terminate you, and then after X number of days, however the contract reads, you will be terminated.
So what are you hearing about the rest of the coaching staff? Is there any chance that there are more people who are going to lose their jobs over this, and let me ask specifically about Kendall Briles, Art's son, who is the offensive coordinator. Not so much that he would be fired because of his connection with any of this, but just the possibility that he could leave because they got rid of his dad.
Yeah, that's a very real possibility. I believe the reason why they wouldn't get rid of him is because if you just get rid of him because he's Art's son, then you're basically saying that he was the only assistant coach that had any knowledge of what was going on, and I don't think that's accurate. I'd be hard-pressed to believe that every single member of that staff had some knowledge of what all was going on, as the Pepper Hamilton report indicates. So I think that's basically why Briles was the only one on the staff that lost his job, because they've got to have a season. They can't. I mean, yes, they can not play this year. They could take those penalties, but I mean, financially, that would be a death blow. You know, you look at all the contracts that they would have to break. Not 3 non-conference games. They would have to buy out of those games. Also, the unknown of how much you would have to pay back the Big 12 for not fulfilling your contract agreements. And as a conference partner, it would basically be the death penalty. And we saw, some people still argue SMU is still not recovered from the death penalty. So I think that's why the assistant coaches stayed on. But you ask a good question. Maybe they decide to move on and go somewhere else. But again, this late in the game, 100 days until the start of college football, a little bit more for the NFL, there's not a lot of openings out there, if there are any openings currently.
This is the Paul Finebaum Show. We're speaking with Brett McMurphy, ESPN College Football Insider. Brett, you had said earlier that you expect that the assistant coaches will remain on and that someone will be the interim coach and that they would probably clean house after the 2016 season. Because it seems like anybody on that staff is probably in some way connected to this, or at least most of them have to be. And so I would agree with you that it would be likely that they'd want to get rid of everyone and start fresh. But let me just throw this at, not that you have any special insight on this, but what do you think the possibility is that players on this roster, knowing that after this season, none of the coaches on the staff are likely to be there, that they'll just start transferring in the next 3 months?
Well, that's a very real possibility. If you saw that there were a number of players that tweeted out their support for Art Briles when the news got out, he texted the players this morning that he would be dismissed, and they obviously feel very strongly about their football coach. So yeah, that's a real possibility that they could leave. If I was a Baylor player and I was going to leave, I would leave now, because then you sit out the 16th season and you can play in 17. If you leave next year, then you got to sit out the 17th season and can't play until 18. So that's something each individual player will have to come to grips with. And I did talk to somebody about, would Baylor's student athletes be allowed to transfer without sitting out, similar to what the NCAA ruled with Penn State. And I was told that basically that was something that the NCAA did in a unique circumstance with Penn State. So it's probably doubtful that the NCAA would allow that to happen in this case. Obviously, it's too early to make that determination, but yeah, it's a very real possibility that Baylor could lose a number of players and or coaches before this season even gets started.
Brett, thank you for your time and your insight on a huge story, and for keeping us posted on what's going on with Tulane and the Sun Belt as well.
Thanks. I owe you dinner next time I'm in Bristol.
Oh, hey, before you go, let me throw one question at you. We posted a poll on Twitter at Finebaum. Which SEC team is most likely to lose its season opener? Now, maybe your mind's cluttered with other Baylor stuff and you can't recall who everybody's playing in the first week. The four choices we have posted on this, and there are obviously others, but Missouri at West Virginia, Ole Miss and Orlando against Florida State, Auburn at home against Clemson, Texas A&M at home against UCLA. You have a choice out of that group.
Wow, I would say, God, off the top of my head, I see 1 and 3. I see A&M with the only victory.
Well, they're the only one of those four that's favored. I think they're a very, very slight favorite in Vegas right now. So.
Right, yeah, that would be the only one. I didn't know what the lines were, but I would absolutely agree with that. I would say everybody but A&M would have to be underdogs, and Missouri probably the biggest underdog of that group.
They are.
Yeah, I think Ole Miss has a decent chance, but Florida State's loaded again with Jimbo, and I just. A&M, this is a huge year for someone, and he's got to get off to a good start. Obviously, playing at home.
All right, there you go. There's some analysis from Brett McMurphy. He's more than just a reporter, folks. All right, Brett. Thanks again. All right, that's Brett McMurphy, ESPN College Football Insider. Just giving us a little bit of background, and obviously there is a lot still left to be determined with Baylor. What's going to happen going forward? It's kind of the fallout from all this, and Baylor is far from being out of the woods in terms of the legal ramifications of this case, but even on the football field, there's a lot more that could still happen that could make them a much weaker team, even than just the loss of Art Briles. So we'll stay tuned to see what happens there.
Did you ever look
listening to the best of the Paul Finebaum Show.
Dan Mullen, the head coach at Mississippi State, has wrapped up his round. And we talked to you a couple weeks ago after finishing the Boston Marathon. What was easier, running through the streets of Boston or having to put your golf game on display?
Much easier being out here today, even though, I guess I don't take this too seriously. You watch me hit. I'll hit a good shot every once in a while and some bad shots, but I don't take it too seriously.
Well, you played with Tom Kite, who's a famous golfer at Texas. He's a big football fan. I played with him many years ago, and his daughter was a gymnast at Alabama, so he follows the league pretty closely.
That's what he did. He said, he's the only their father-daughter combination to both win national championships in college, which is pretty impressive. But you know what? I mean, what a great guy, U.S. Open champion, and to get out there and play with him, and I think he's 66. I saw, and so I was kind of embarrassed that maybe one day when I get older, I'll be able to hit the ball that far.
Yeah, no, you're still coaching though. Anyway, Dan, let's talk about Dak Prescott for a second, because a lot of news a few weeks ago. What are your thoughts on how he is fitting in? The Cowboys are a big operation. You know them well.
Well, I think it's a great fit for him. I think he's a guy that gets going with a quarterback in front of him, and Tony Romo, with a lot of experience. That's in the back end of his career, where Dak's going to come in, and the one thing I think he'll bring to the table is just great leadership, showing up every day to work, and so I think that'll. I hope for them, the organization takes a little pressure off of Tony, even midweek in practices, that a guy like Dak Prescott's going to come in, bring the energy, bring the leadership to the team that they need, and he's going to continue to develop. The one thing I do know about him, though, he's going in and competing for that starting job. He's always going to compete.
Has he heard what kind of money Tony's making?
yeah, I know. He's not quite on that level, but knowing him, he's just going to find a way to go compete and improve. And I think that's the biggest thing in the situation he's in. He's going to have the opportunity to continue to improve, to continue to grow, hopefully within their system. And I hope for him to take over a couple years down the road.
He is gone. So what happens next in Starkville? I know you had a spirited competition, and that's something that I'm sure we will see when we reconvene. It's
going to keep going for a while, because one of the things when you have young players is you finish spring practice mid-April. We're not on the field again with them until August 1st. So between April and August 1st, they're on their own. And, so especially with young quarterbacks, it's, to me, who's going to go out there, put in the time, and do the extra things to go prove that they're our quarterback. They're going to lead us into the future. So I'll be excited to see, getting in the training camp, who that guy is that's really tried to take the step forward.
Any hints?
No, the summer, I think people don't get it. One of the hardest things in college football is the summer. Because we can't be on the field with him. And, I think over the last couple of years, we had a guy, Dak Prescott, who's a returning quarterback, coming back in the summer. I think one of the biggest advantages teams miss, and not you got a returning quarterback for the season. You got a returning starter in the summer that is going to run the show with the whole team and make everybody around them better. You had some question marks at the quarterback. Those guys, none of them have been in that position to know how hard they need to work to be the guy over the summer. So I got to see who's going to take those reins.
Speaking of the summer, in the late spring, early summer, it's a time of the year that coaches sometimes lose sleep over, because you get a call and the next thing you know, somebody's in trouble, and that's happened a lot, and will probably happen more. You've lived with it. Everyone's lived with it. I'm fascinated, because it's easy to blame, it's easy to say personal responsibility, but when you talk to these guys before they leave, do you try to formulate a message that you hope gets through?
Well, you do. There's we're talking about we got 85 18 to 22-year-olds on scholarship. I don't know, when you were 18 or 19 or 20 years old, I'm sure you didn't get in any issues or problems or troubles. But the problem comes with a lot of these guys is they live in the spotlight. And one of the things is understanding that they are in that spotlight all the time. That, if they go out with some friends back at home and they get in trouble, and there's 4 guys that got in trouble. Only one's going to make the headlines, and that's them. The other 4, so I mean, here's 4 guys went out, high school friends, got in a little bit of trouble, did something they weren't supposed to do. 1 splattered all over the newspaper. 3 you don't really hear much about. And I think that's one of the things we try to explain to them is that they live kind of have to live up to a little different standard than everybody else out there because mistakes that they made really can get blown up in the media.
What I'm curious about is that every time one of these stories happens, people start calling me, you, everyone saying, what's wrong with these guys? Don't they talk to them? I mean, how much time from the moment a player arrives on campus do they hear about responsibility?
It's nonstop. It's nonstop, and a lot this time of year is scary for us because they're home. A lot of times when they're on campus, they're around teammates. So I say, if 4 guys are going out together that are teammates, and one guy starts going down the wrong path, there's a good chance that 3 teammates are going to say, hey, well, don't be doing that. You got to remember, again, they're college kids, so they'll make some mistakes. A lot of times when they go home, there's not a teammate there to kind of straighten them up sometimes. But you do nonstop. You're always talking about them about making good decisions. I'm 44. I don't always make great decisions in my life still. I'll make mistakes in my life. And, these guys at 18, 19, 20 years old, you're trying to talk about the decision-making and understanding that every decision you make in life has a consequence. At 20 years old, that's kind of sometimes a hard thing to grasp.
Have you found any one thing that seems to... I mean, Pete, you bring in guys that have been in jail. You bring in motivator. Is there any one thing that you've noticed over the many years that really gets through to players?
Well, when they make a mistake, I tell you, just like everybody, you can lecture anybody all you want over and over and over again, and until you're the one that has to face those consequences, sometimes they don't get it, and that's the biggest one. That is the biggest one. And then, if you can start getting them to figure out about decision making, how whatever decision they make, how it's going to affect their family, and don't think about just themselves. Think about people around them making decisions.
I know it's hard to go down the street now without someone bringing up the Boston Marathon, and you were just so moved and inspirational in talking about it in the hours after that. What has it meant as you've gotten a couple of weeks away from there, other than having sore legs?
I think I'm a little bit recovered right now, but it is. I've had a lot of people call me and say, "Hey, you've inspired me to get up and just there's things I've wanted to do in life, and I'm going to go try to do it now." And one of the things, to me, I'm looking at is I'm trying to wonder what's next now. I went and did something that was a goal in life, was inspirational, and certainly was not easy. And I'm thrilled that I've inspired some other people to go out there and maybe accomplish something that they, that was on their list, but there's no way I could do it, and now they're going out to do it. And even for me, I want to try to figure out what's next.
You've actually inspired me. I'm a runner, but I'm not great. A couple of times over the last 3 weeks, I've started to. Dan Mullen ran 26 miles. I think I can finish the 1 mile run. What else? People climb mountains. They do. What would be in the short list of things that you would like to do next?
The one I got to figure out is what I can do while I'm coaching. I'd love to go hike the top of Mount Kilimanjaro.
Wow.
One day, I think that'd be awesome. And tie that in with a safari. I'd love to try a long sail one day. And try to set that I'm going to go sail from here to there on a crew.
Now, I'm not that familiar with safaris, but when you go on safaris, do you try to nab black bears?
Yeah. I'm going to just go and observe. I'm going to observe. I might try a triathlon, too, next.
Oh, my goodness. That's really tough.
They are. I don't know about the Ironman.
You must be a good athlete.
But
I know you're humble, but there's no way you could have done the marathon in that time with being a flabby guy.
I'm a jog. I jog most of the way. I look at some of the people.
When you're jogging, do you listen to music?
I like having the music going.
What do you listen to?
It's got such a wide range. The most played thing on there is probably U2, but it'll go from anywhere from country to Tupac.
Tupac.
I got some Tupac on there. You got some Jay-Z. You know what? They were even laughing at me. I even got some Taylor Swift on there, I think. So.
Well, Taylor goes both both directions. I mean, from pop to country. So
I got it all. I got a good mix.
Man, Tupac, you're getting
school stuff.
You're getting cred by the nanosecond here. I think I could run fast listening to Tupac.
Gets you going. It's a little older school stuff, but the NWA movie came out last summer, and I kind of knew everything going on in it, and all the kids on the team, we took them, and I don't think they knew a lot of the songs.
You're not into
that.
some of the.
I like the NWA,
but
the newer stuff.
Yeah, the newer stuff.
I listen to it at practice all the time.
I bet you do.
They got the one year they had Versace. I don't know if you've heard that one, Paul, but they must say Versace.
ESPN, you hear all those
about 10,000 times in about a 4-minute song right there, and I was looking for a little more variety, but we'll mix it up in practice a bunch too.
Is Mrs. Mullen? Does she listen to this stuff too? Or?
Yeah, she's a little bit more of a country Jimmy Buffett. She's a big Parrot head. I got her into Buffett, and now she's a huge Parrot head. You get in the car with her. We got Mac McAnally on, or she's got the Margaritaville channel on all the time.
One of these days we'll get you to listen to our show.
You know what? Every once in a while, we'll tune in a staff meeting while we're breaking down film on a Monday. In season.
Oh, my goodness.
Because I got to just be entertained every once in a while to see what all of us did wrong. You can hear pretty quickly what we all did wrong that previous weekend.
There is one guy who lives in Mississippi who's the biggest Ole Miss fan in America, and I promise you, he could have your entire team rolling on the aisle. He is so funny, so laughable, and so embarrassing. We're talking about you, Archie. Ocean Springs, Mississippi.
Yeah. He's
always telling us.
He's a school up north.
He's always. You just ended his thread. Dan Mullen, what an entertaining conversation. Thank you.
Thanks. Great to be with you, Paul.
Thanks, sir.
Hey, everyone.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum Show.
Georgia certainly has the longest active bowl streak in the SEC, and I know our next guest pretty confident that will be continued.
I hope so.
Well, Coach, thank you very much. We ran into a couple other coaches and told you had a friendly little game here yesterday with Hugh Freeze and Gus Malzahn.
Well, you know what? They didn't actually include me. I played, but I didn't get to play with them. I didn't meet the elite status of those guys.
Okay,
but Hugh let me know that I could join them down at Destin, so I'm glad.
So you're at the kids' table, right?
That's right. I'm in the kids' table. I'm learning the respect.
Listen, you were hardly anonymous as a defensive coordinator at the University of Alabama, and obviously your time with Nick other places. But still, this has to be a little different coming here and being a much bigger part of the story.
Yeah, it's much different. It's a different feel to it. A lot of Bama fans out here, obviously, so I get a lot of Roll Tides, and we've got a great group of contingency from Georgia as well. So it's a unique experience, a great experience. A lot of pressure over these butts.
Oh, I can imagine.
Jeff Maggart's a lot better at it than I am.
Probably not a lot of Georgia A&M going back and forth. Georgia and A&M don't quite have that rivalry. I
think that's why they paired us. There's no rivalry there yet.
We talk so much about it, and not to bring you into Alabama's domain because it's no longer under you, but you know the players. And there's such a focus this time of the year when players go home, and one or two always get in trouble. I know you left your players with that message, and I'm sure you've been doing it your whole career.
Yeah, it's tough anytime it happens. You know, somebody actually sent me an email prior to guys going home saying that's when 60 to 70% of the arrests occur. And we had a big team meeting and discussed it, and unfortunately we had a small incident, and it happens across the country, and you try to make them aware and educate them and help them every way you can. But ultimately these kids make mistakes.
Yeah, and you're a football coach. You're not a sociologist, but
definitely not that.
Maybe you should be. But it has to be exasperating because I know your time in Alabama. There's not a program, at least up until the time you left, that spent more time trying to process and develop young players. I know you're doing it at Georgia.
Absolutely. You do the best you can, and you control the things you can control. And we like to think we can control things like that, but it's really hard to. You just do the best job you can. You educate them and understand that they're going to make mistakes, and they got to suffer the consequences when they do.
I'd like to talk about being a new coach, and you can joke about all the things, but there are those, and I think I'd throw myself in the lot, who say that if there was ever a person ready to be a head coach, that you talk about that, because you seem like, I mean, you've done everything you have to do other than being the head coach.
Well, I think working for Coach, Nick, he's done a great job of educating coaches. He develops coaches like he develops players, because he doesn't make decisions above you. He makes them with you, and you learn a lot. Coach McElwain, Muschamp, a lot of guys, Jimbo, you learn by being part of his organization. So it would be remiss of myself to not credit him with educating you and preparing you to be a head coach. So I'm more prepared from being in Alabama and being in a lot of tough situations that better prepared me for Georgia.
Is there anything, and I realize you haven't coached a game yet, but is there anything that you've encountered so far where you kind of look and go, oh my goodness, this is me now?
Yeah, it happens daily. I mean, there's a lot of decisions to be made in that seat. And, Bobby Williams used to kid all the time at the University of Alabama, that's a lonely seat. And you see now, because you got to make tough decisions. You got to make decisions and go with them. And you got to have a staff that supports you in those decisions. And that's the most unique thing, is the decision-making every day.
I've had coaches tell me who've been head coaches for the first time that they just didn't understand the time management. It's hard for me to imagine. You haven't seen all this firsthand, but it's still, there are more demands. How do you deal with all that?
You do the best you can. You get advice. You talk to people. I got a lot of good friends in this profession who are not egotistical to the point where they won't help, so you ask them when they did it. And that's the biggest difference, is how you manage your time. I mean, it's tough to make decisions on how much time you spend with the offense, how much time you spend with the defense, special teams. There's a lot of big decisions. Recruiting versus evaluating, and recruiting versus watching opponents. There's a lot of decisions that I'm not used to having to make, especially in May, because I was out chasing kids,
In terms of demands beyond the actual management of the football program, I'm guessing you could probably speak someplace every morning, noon, and night, and these are people you went to school there. You want to help everyone, but that would seemingly be one of the hardest things to deal with.
Having that no person, Paul, is a big deal. You got to have somebody willing to say no for you and realize that maybe the next year you can do it. So you're not the bad guy. But I think I'm surrounded myself with a good staff and a good support system that they let me know the things I need to do versus the things I can't do.
In terms of the takeaway and the differences, I mean, Alabama and Georgia are obviously two of the premier jobs in the country, but is it a different atmosphere? Is it a different feel? I mean, it's not new, but
they're passionate. They're both passionate, and that's the way it is in the Southeastern Conference. It's so competitive that just the smallest amount makes a difference. So the fan bases at both places are unbelievable. To have 93,000 people at our spring game, the commitment level that's at UGA right now is unbelievable.
You, speaking of the spring game, you had Jacob Eason there, and I would think this has to be frustrating as a coach to
he's
never end. It never ends. And I know you try to deal with it. You have to be cognizant of the team's interest, but he is a young guy who's impressionable. So talk about managing him and trying to bring him along at a pace where you don't get ahead of yourself.
Spending a lot of time with him early in the spring and talking to him and making him aware that there was going to be a burden and an expectation that he didn't have to meet. There was no expectation for us. We want him to do the best job he could do each day. And he's focused really hard on that. He's at home now training. Coach Chaney's been a big part of that. He's developed a lot of good quarterbacks in our league, from Bray to the kid at Arkansas last year. He's done this before. It's not the first time. So he's been a great person for me to lean on in the development of all the quarterbacks, but especially Jacob being so young.
Do you have any problem, any objection to him starting the first game?
I have no objection to him starting the first game. I want the guy that gives us the best chance to win to start the first game. So whoever that is, that's 20-something practices from now. We'll know a lot more.
Kirby Smart, thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
Great to see you.
Great to see you.
Kirby Smart, head football coach at the University of Georgia.
Listening to the best of the Paul Finebaum Show.
baseball fans, I'm Buster Olney. And on the latest Baseball Tonight podcast, 2 World Series contenders are looking for answers. We'll talk about all that and more. Just touch the Listen tab on the ESPN app.
That one towards the left center field gap, and that one is gone. Adrian Gonzalez will touch them all.
This weekend, Adrian Gonzalez and the Los Angeles Dodgers head to the Northeast to face Yoenis Cespedes and the New York Mets.
Cespedes up with it, throw to the plate, out of bounds, tag, out at the plate.
The Dodgers and Mets, Saturday at 6 Eastern and Sunday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio. Presented by Harley-Davidson. This weekend, Adrian Gonzalez and the Los Angeles Dodgers head to the Northeast to face Yoenis Cespedes and the New York Mets.
Adrian Gonzalez will touch them all.
Saturday at 6 Eastern and Sunday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio.